Thank you.
For what, Shumai?
For wanting to be here with me.
His hand was shaking a bit, and I could tell he was feeling nervous. His nervousness was making me feel a little nervous. His stress is contagious. I shoved down the small feeling of butterflies in my stomach and smiled while we walked down to the AV room.
Hey, Shuichi.
Kaede called out to Shuichi, who was trembling at this point. I gave his hand a supportive squeeze, hoping to myself that would make him feel better.
Hey, Kaede.
Shuichi stuttered, holding my hand tighter. Why is he getting so nervous? Aren't him and Kaede close?
Shuichi, you and Kokichi are together now? You're holding hands.
She exclaimed with stars in her eyes. I felt my smile grow. I love being together with this emo detective. He's my favorite after all, my beloved Shuichi.
No, we're just going to the AV room to watch a movie together.
He gasped, blushing even more. I like seeing him flustered, but something about Kaede being the one who made him this way made my skin crawl.
I'm just teasing, but that sounds like a date, Shuichi.
She giggled before walking away with a smile. I felt my shoulders slump. Finally. I looked down at our hands. Why am I getting so jealous? Shuichi and I aren't even together. Not that I like not being together with him. It's just, I'm hating how jealous I'm getting from him and Kaede's friendship.
We should get going. Shouldn't we go?
I asked, holding his hand to my chest before skipping off to the game room. He gasped at the sudden motion, but soon was half running to keep up with me. It was weird how good I felt just messing around with Shuichi. Like how we can just run through the halls and talk about whatever. And I can always tease him, and it's one hell of a show. I laughed to myself before opening the door to the game room, quickly followed by the one to the AV room. Shuichi was breathing heavily when we sat down on the couch. I was afraid he would have collapsed at the door, but he didn't. I'm glad he didn't, because that would have hurt, especially if he ended up falling on his head.
Kokichi,
he panted as I made my way over to the couch. I was trying my hardest to not burst out laughing at how winded he is from a little running.
Shuichi, are you all right?
I asked, putting a hand on his shoulder with a muffled laugh. I was biting my lip, trying to stop my laughter.
I don't run often.
He gasped, putting his hand to his chest as if he was regulating his breathing. I took the seat next to him and softly rubbed his upper back.
You made that pretty obvious, Shu.
I laughed before he started coughing for a moment. I should apologize for making him run. It can hurt your lungs if you never really run. And then suddenly you have to run a lot.
Sorry for making you run,
I said with a small frown. Those words sounded weird coming out of my mouth.
It's all right,
he said, slowly raising his head. He held his head with his hand from what I assumed to be a headache that started. I sighed and leaned back into the couch.
So what movie would you like to watch, my beloved?
I teased again, trying to get rid of the mood of the room. It was bringing my shoulders down, but seeing as another person is in the room, I have to keep my mask on.
I wanted to watch something. Actually, I have no clue what I want to watch. Why don't you choose?
He whispered to me as I slowly got up to survey the shelves. There was a lot of random movies, and some of them were definitely weird to be seen in an AV room. But I mean, Monokuma put this together, so I shouldn't expect anything different.
What about your name?
I asked, pulling out the disc. I haven't watched this movie in forever, and the first time I watched it was more about watching it to make fun of it. Dice all gathered together for a movie night. It was so fun to just mess around with them. Are they doing okay?
Kokichi, are you all right?
Shuichi asked, putting a hand on my shoulder. I must have really zoned out, seeing as I didn't even notice him moving closer to me.
Yeah, of course, my beloved,
I said, trying to put my best smile to convince him I really was. To convince myself I really am.
Okay, then.
He sounds unconvinced. I frowned a bit, but soon was smiling as my normal self again. We both sat on the couch after I put the movie into the movie player. He already looked relaxed. I was surprised that he was already so relaxed. He's always so tense.
This movie is one I've never seen before. I don't get to watch a lot of movies at my uncle's house.
Shuichi said, moving his arm closer to mine. I felt goosebumps erupt on my arms as a small blush came to my cheeks. It's a weird feeling when your heart is beating so fast from just the slight touch of someone you feel a certain way about. The way your hands suddenly feel sweaty and your face gets all hot. You can't focus or think about anything but them. Shuichi Saihara. It's such a weird and interesting character. I wonder what's in store for the both of us.
Kokichi.
Shuichi said suddenly. I blushed at the random use of my first name, but I didn't say anything about it.
Yeah, Shu?
I asked, turning to face him. He looked at me with a nervous expression. I held my breath when he suddenly moved closer to me. Is this like yesterday? Did I tease him too much? I asked myself, feeling my heart pounding throughout my head.
Can I rest my head on yours?
He asked, making me stay there, dumbfounded for a moment.
Yeah?
I asked, sounding more confused than I meant to sound. He didn't respond. He only rested his head on my own as his hands slowly intertwined with my own. I smiled to myself and leaned against him.